recording this video? Yes. Did I just eat the most spicy Chinese food I've ever eaten in my life? Also, yes. Yo, what's up guys? It's me, Jake here, and I'm finally reading every single manga I've ever been recommended, ever. Now, I know, crazy thing. That's just insane. But, I'm going to talk about how that whole video is going to be structured in a second. But before that, if this video does pretty well, I'll probably make a part 2. If you want to be in that part 2, recommend me a manga down in the comments down below, or follow me on any of my socials. Links are also down in the description below, because when I do make that video, I'll talk about it on all my socials, and if you comment on this video, you already have said what you're going to be recommended to me, so you don't have to do that, but if you want to, you can. I suggest commenting on this video just so you have it for the future, but you guys can do what you want. So, let's get straight into the video. Just so you guys have a little bit of an idea about what this video is going to be like, I've ranked the series that I did read from worst to best. So the quicker your series has been talked about, the worse it is. I'm going to be very sorry to say that, but that means if you are in like the 40-ish to 30-ish range, like from those ranges, don't recommend me manga ever again. I'm going to be very honest, just don't. I don't even think I have 40 manga. I don't know why I said 40-ish, but if you're in that 30-ish range, just don't recommend me manga again. I'm sorry, it's just not good. But start off with this whole thing, I did read all the chapter 1s of everything that was recommended to me, and I'm going to be talking about my opinions on every single chapter 1 that was brought to me and then recommended to me. Of course, I could not read every single series, because some of the series you guys recommended me were like 700 to 800 plus chapters, and I just don't have time for that. I am sorry, I cannot read 30 series with 3 of them being almost One Piece long. I can't. I'm sorry. That would take me months. So, I read the first chapter of all this. You probably already knew all this if you follow me on AniList, because if you follow me on AniList, I've been updating it regularly in my manga recommendation video section on my AniList. But, let's get started. The first series on this list, number 34. So, I know what you might be saying, and it is Ultraman. There's one reason to it. I did drop this chapter, and that's because there was not a single site that had a scan that I could read, because the scans were terrible and the font was very small, and I just could not do that. Zooming in made it so I couldn't see the art, and zooming out made it so I could not see the actual words. So I just got stuck in a bad situation, and I had to put Ultraman last. I probably would like it, but I just could not read it because it was impossible to find a good scan for it. Yeah, I know they have English physicals, but I'm not going to buy volume 1s of every single series that is recommended to me. That would just be obscene, and I don't have that kind of money on me right now. So, I'm not broke, but that's a lot of money I would have to spend, because some of these series are out of print. So yeah, sorry about that, Ultraman 34. Now, next up on this list, at number 33, is number 5. I know that sounds confusing, because it's number 33 and it's number 5, but number 5 by Taiyo Matsumoto. If you don't know, I already hate Taiyo Matsumoto's art style. I've read Ping Pong, and I very much disliked it, and this is no different. This is actually the only one that I dropped that I didn't have an actual issue with the scan. Like Ultraman, I had an issue with the scans. This one, it was just terrible, and I did not know what the hell was going on, and I thought it was just a bad chapter with bad art, so I just could not deal with it. It just felt like there was no story, no cohesion, and it was very confusing. So, I know you might be saying, how are you going to say you've read everything? I did. I just did not finish it. This is the only one that I completely dropped out of all these. If that just says how bad this one is, don't recommend me manga ever again. This one's gonna be a little bit weird because a lot of people actually highly rate this manga. And I hear a lot of people talking about it, and it's because it's by Hiroya Oku. I can never say his name, so best you're ever gonna get from me. And I know he gets a lot of talk about Gigant recently, but this series is gonna be Inuyashiki. I thought it was okay. I felt like it was just kind of dragged out and boring. Just a lot of the same stuff over and over again. Like, oh, feel bad for this guy. He's old. Yada, yada, yada. None of his family love him. That's literally all this chapter was. And it was very boring and stupid. And I felt the art was okay for Hiroya Oku. And I felt like everything else about it was pretty meh. So, yes, the ending of the chapter was kind of interesting. But everything else about it was pretty bad. So, it gets the last place on this list in terms of everything that I actually completed the chapter for. So, if that says anything, it's a bad manga. This next one's gonna be a very weird one, because I easily could have broke the rule of reading the first chapter because the first chapter is only 2 pages and it does not have any single word. That's Memories of Eminon. I will be very honest, the only reason it's actually above series I actually completed chapter 1 of is because even in those 2 pages, it was kinda interesting and kinda got me hooked. The rest of it there's really nothing to it. Like, the rest of the series I talked about were just bad. Like, at least this got me interested in the series, even though it's not long at all. It's 2 pages. Got me interested in it. Now I want to read Memories of Eminon. Inuyashiki didn't do that. Number 5 didn't do that. Of course, Ultraman I'll probably buy the physical for, because I could not read that. Now, I'm not going to say any of the names of the people that have recommended me this stuff, but this is going to be one of the few that I actually do say. Manga Sloth. Don't ever recommend me manga again. Flying Witch. Now, I'm kind of joking on that fact because, to be honest, the end of this chapter was actually pretty decent. I did think it was pretty good. I thought the art was pretty meh. But I will say this is definitely a series that I could see being better going down the line. But it's just the problem with a lot of slice of lifes is they don't have really interesting first chapters. And this is a slice of life, so it's having that problem. I'm going to say probably the later half, I would say I'll probably very much enjoy. It's just, as a first chapter, it did not work that well and it was not that interesting. So here we are. I thought it was okay. Above other series that I thought were bad, I think this is the start where stuff is starting to get kind of decent. I know you might be saying this is kind of early on, but this is where, like, there's some interesting stuff happening in these kind of chapters, so I kind of like them a little bit. I'm going to rate them above, like, a 4. So, yeah, sorry, Sloth, I had a dox you like that, but I just don't recommend me a manga again, I guess. Now, I know what a lot of people might be saying on this next one. Oh, you're just trying to make controversy. Yeah. There's going to be a couple that could cause controversy in this list. This might be one, and that's going to be Summon of the Gods. I think it was okay. It was kind of confusing to follow in the very beginning of it. Didn't know what the hell was going on, and it was just kind of interesting because of the plot, and then everything else around the plot, like the characters and all that, were kind of just confusing, and I didn't know what was going on. There's a massive, like, 60-year time skip in the middle of chapter 1. Just a lot of stuff I didn't understand at first. I bet you if I read more, I would understand these things and the reasons why they're happening, but since I've only read chapter 1, there it is. But I'm going to say this was a pretty meh chapter 1. It was kind of interesting, but there's a lot of things that just didn't be cohesive with each other, and I thought it was okay. So, yeah. Okay, the next one was recommended to me by someone who literally, I think, has 2 other series in, like, my top 10 of this video. That's Dugain. This is by far the worst one he recommended me. The other ones were amazing. This one was bad. Just confusing and bad, and that's new one. I think the mass section of this kind of portion of the video is going to be kind of stuff that's just kind of confusing mostly because there's a lot of things that I just felt like weren't explained because it's chapter 1. They can't explain everything, you know? But I'm going to say this right now. I thought it was a pretty meh chapter 1. Nothing crazy, nothing great. So that's new one. If you don't know anything about it, World War II Nazi story. It could be good. I don't know. I thought the first chapter was pretty meh. The art was okay, and the characters made no sense. Okay, at 27. It's going to be another one people might be just talking about, oh, you're just trying to make controversy. Me. I'm not, first of all. Second of all, it's Innocent. If you don't know anything about Innocent, it's by the guy who did The Climber, and his art is fantastic. But in this series, the art is fantastic for everyone but the main character. I'm going to be very honest. I thought everything looked amazing, but I hated the main character design. It looked stupid. I thought it was just very dumb. And yeah, I just don't like his facial expressions either. It was just not that interesting. Yes, it's a French Revolution manga. You don't really see those quite often, but off of chapter 1, none of the characters were kind of interesting, and none of the characters did anything, or even the ending of the chapter didn't even hook me. It was just there, like, him crying. Like, I really just thought this chapter was so meh. Of course, I went into it with a little bit of hype because everyone hypes up Innocent, and I just don't think it lived up to it. So that's Innocent Rogue, and I thought it was pretty okay. And number 26 is kind of the start of the slice of life section where they just can't do much in chapter 1. Mostly this one because there's only 17 pages. That's Yansha Girl no Anjisan, I think, or something around those lines. And to be honest, this just felt like a worse version of Nagatoro, where Nagatoro just takes 17 Viagras. Like, that's basically what this chapter 1 felt like. Very, very weird. Did not like the character design of the MC, but I will say I do hear a lot of amazing things from it. The art was very good. I'm going to be very honest. The art was great, but I do hear a lot of good things going on about this series and how it gets better and better and better. So I will probably give this one another shot just in the future to see if I like where it goes. But so far, like I said, Nagatoro took 17 Viagra and met a skinny, ugly bastard, I guess you'd say. And yeah, that's basically it. This one also has the slice of life problem. It's Nichijou at 25. I think this was an interesting first chapter because they did allude to things being a little different because they have a girl who's a robot and they alluded to that, and it kind of adds a little thing to that slice of life aspect where it's gonna be crazy and all that jazz, but it still falls under this because it was kind of wordy at times for no reason, and I think the characters so far are stale, but I think, of course, it's only chapter 1, and it feels like it can get bigger and better, but chapter 1, kind of stale, older comedy, which is not always my thing. I don't really like the old style comedy, but it did start a little bit ago, so I'll give it the benefit of a doubt, and it's also still ongoing, so I can probably, still read it and feel like it's gonna be having more modern comedy, but yeah, that's Nichijou at 25. Now, the next two are made by the same mangaka. Now, I don't know if it's the same art or same storyteller or if it's just the same both, but that's going to be at number 24, To the Abandoned Sacred Beast. This is an interesting one. I liked the concept of the art style. I thought it was a really interesting art style, and I thought the concept of the whole story was pretty interesting as well, but the main character just seemed annoying. The main character was so annoying. The girl was just so irritating at times. But I could see how it could have some really, really crazy moments because the battle art looked phenomenal. I'm going to say this right now. It's one of my favorite battle art styles so far that I've read from this whole list. Very interesting. Really like the concept of these sacred beasts and how they look. But I just felt like it fell flat in terms of the main character. I felt like she was just annoying. It kind of felt like High Rise Invasion's main character a little bit. I don't know why she gave me those vibes, but she did, and I did not like those vibes. Now, like I said, about 24, this one is made by the same exact guy, and that's going to be Tales of the Wedding Rings. And I think this was a little bit better because it had a little more build-up, it had a lot more stuff into it, it had this kind of slice-of-life element, and also this kind of isekai element thrown in there, with the fantasy world and all these monsters, and a bunch of power system stuff. Well, not really a bunch, but a little bit of the power system stuff with the wedding ring, and all of that jazz. I thought it was pretty interesting, and it had a lot more stuff. Like, the meat and potatoes felt more interesting than the Sacred Beast manga. And also, I like this main character more, even though so far he is such a beta, but I hope he gets better. He is kind of a beta right now, not a Sigma male, not an alpha. He is just so much of a simp, but yeah, I think he's pretty interesting so far, and hopefully it continues to be good, because I'm probably going to continue this one as well. To be honest, this is kind of the start of the rom-com section. We did have a little bit of a break from the rom-com section, but this is a continuation of it. There's a lot of rom-coms coming up. I know the next one isn't, but a lot of more recent ones that are going to be on this list are going to be rom-coms, such as this one, Fruits Basket. It was okay. I feel like I would enjoy it more if I read it physically, and there's one reason. I did actually go to the store the other day. I went to my Barnes, my local Barnes and Nobles, and I looked through the collector's edition of Volume 1 to see if the art was kind of different from the scans. I'll be honest, the scan quality is pretty meh. It's okay at best. Compared to the actual art of the volume, it's just way worse. So, it's one of those ones. Yes, it's very old shoujo art style, but I feel like I would definitely like it a lot more if I read it physically. So, Fruits Basket is in this spot. I think it's okay. That was interesting. Definitely might continue if I get the collector's editions, but those are kind of expensive, so we'll see in the future. And in the 21st spot of this list is going to be Horimiya. I thought Horimiya was okay. I thought the main character was annoying, but also kind of interesting. I didn't mind her. She was actually one of the better main characters that I saw out of all these rom-coms. Did like her, and I did like the romance that was budding. I felt like it was a nice, wholesome slice of life so far, and I really did enjoy what I was reading, and I thought it was a pretty interesting read, so I might continue it, but I hear it kind of falls off for a little bit, so we'll see. Maybe I'll pick up the first 3 or 4 volumes and read there and see where I'd like it, but we'll never know. We'll see if I like it and if I read those, so yeah. We'll see in the future. Whoever recommended me this, why? In the 20th spot, in the last of all the 20th places, is Baki. If I was actually trying to read this whole series, you know how long that would take me, bro? That'd be like 2 months down the drain right there for one series and a whole bunch of other manga I have to read. That's just a meanie move, but Baki was interesting. I like how they portrayed the main character of Baki. I like how they made him kind of a way smarter person than I actually thought, because I know this might sound like I'm stereotyping right here, but a lot of the fighters in fighting manga are not the smartest. I'll be very honest. They kind of fall into the stereotypical, oh, these fighters are dumb because they get hit in the face a lot. That's how it goes with a lot of those manga, with fighting manga. They say since they get hit in the face, they lose brain cells, basically, and it's stupid. There's a lot of smart fighters, but rest my point, I rest my case, whatever. Baki was interesting, really liked it. I thought how the build up to the fight was also interesting, but any more Baki, if I'm gonna actually rate it for a full series, as the first chapter was decent, so yeah, that's Baki. In my 19th spot, and the first spot of all the teens, is going to be Snow White with the red hair. I thought it was an interesting kind of concept. I thought it was a very nice kind of take on the kind of Snow White, I guess, storyline that they're trying to portray in this. That was very interesting. I like the main character. She's pretty interesting as well. And I thought overall the world was nice. I thought I liked this fantasy kind of aspect to it. I was kind of getting bored of all these normal slice of life, so that when I got this kind of fantasy slice of life, it felt like a breath of fresh air, and I really did enjoy it. So hopefully I like more of it, because I'm probably going to read this one in the future as well, but it is kind of long, so I might pick up a couple of the first volumes first, see how I enjoy it, and then pick up the rest soon. So we'll see how I like it then, but so far, decent. I thought it was pretty interesting, liked the characters, the art was pretty good, and I also will say the storyline was also pretty good. So yeah. At 18, it's such a surprise. There's another slice of life. That's Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible, Chapter 1. It was pretty good. I know what you guys might be saying. I've technically already read Volume 1, full Volume 1, but that was a really long time ago before Volume 1 is even out in English. Now we're on Volume 3, so as you can tell, that's already a long time from when Volume 1 to Volume 3 came out. So I decided, since I forgot a lot, I would reread Chapter 1 and put it on this list. And yeah, it's not that much different from what I remember. I do really like the characters, and I do think it's a pretty interesting breath of fresh air from normal slice of life. The MC is invisible to everyone but the main girl, which is Kubo, and she's like one of the only people that can actually feel his presence. I think that's a pretty interesting kind of concept and take on the slice of life genre. I think it's a really nice one, wholesome one, and I cannot wait for that anime. Another one that's a little bit of a different take on the slice of life genre, at 17, it's going to be Gal Gohan. I do like this one. I know it's a little bit weird because it's kind of an age gap, but it is definitely one that is kind of interesting. Definitely focuses more on a teacher-student relationship from what I've read, and it's definitely one of those ones that has just a lot of nice panels of just cooking, because if you don't know, it's about a home ec teacher trying to like connect with students, so he makes a home ec club and only one joins, and so they make a bunch of food together. It's just a nice wholesome rom-com about cooking. That's all it is, and I feel like it's just a nice, solid, decent Chapter 1. It has quite a few interesting moments and just a lot of really good looking food. That's it. Now, at 16 is one that reminds me of a series I'm going to talk about later on in this video, and it's going to be Endergeister. This is not one I expected to enjoy nearly as much as I did, but I thought it was a very interesting Chapter 1. I just didn't know what to expect going into it, and this does fall in the category of, I don't know what the hell was going on, but it did it right. It was very cool, and it looked insane. I really liked how these kind of interesting concepts that they were bringing up, I don't really know anything about them yet, are being shown and portrayed, and I really do like the double-page spreads that this person draws. I don't know if it's a guy or a girl for the manga, so I'm just going to say this person draws. So, just being a warning. Just a huge warning on that. But definitely interesting. I highly recommend this one. If you like the series that I'm going to talk about in the future of this video, I'll say which series it is, but yeah, this is a very interesting one. The next series I'm going to be talking about also falls in that same category as Endergeister. That is, I don't know what the hell is going on, and that's going to be Opossums. I'm going to say, if you know anything about Tsutomu Nihei, you just don't know what's going on in any of his stories a lot of the time. It's just looking amazing, and this does not fall flat on that. It's just straight up kind of confusing at times, and you don't know what's going on, but what you're looking at looks great, and is definitely interesting. So yeah, if you're into those series, then you'll probably like Opossums. I'm definitely going to pick this one up, because I feel like the art physically will look amazing, and I cannot wait to own it. I know it's not that hard to find, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, Opossums, really enjoyed this Chapter 1, and I cannot wait to read more. The 14th manga and next manga on this list is going to be Immortal Hounds. This is another vertical series, and I will say it's definitely an interesting one. The concept of everyone being an immortal, except some very few people are infected by a virus, is very interesting. I don't really see many manga going about the immortal life like that. I just see a couple manga like, oh, this group is immortal, oh, this group is immortal, but this can take them out. And I like the kind of take on this one of having a group of immortals and having a select few people who are infected, and if they touch the immortals or anything like that, it's like a sickness and it can spread, and those people are no longer immortal as well, and the only way they can find out is if they die. I think that's a very interesting concept brought up in Immortal Hounds, and I really want to see what happens next. I don't know if this is a harder to find series, because some vertical series are just very hard to find sometimes. Hopefully it is not. I think there's 8 volumes or something around that, so I'll see if I can pick it up, but it was definitely an interesting read from chapter 1. Now, for the highest rated slice of life on this list, or one of the highest rated slice of life on this list, at 13 I have Skip and Loafer. Now, after looking at these volume covers, I didn't think I was going to like these character designs. I really just did not like them. But while I was reading it, I actually kind of fell in love with the character designs. How they are kind of dynamic on the page and how they move is just very interesting to me. I really like how they are kind of positioned in a way that it's kind of just very realistic, so I definitely did like these character designs a lot. And also, I like how they did a lot of things, because I felt like Skip and Loafer just did everything a Slice of Life Chapter 1 needed to do very well. It introduced main character, introduced main love interest, had comedy, showed the characters' personalities, and just did everything right. So that's Skip and Loafer. Very much enjoyed it, and definitely recommend this one. I definitely liked it a lot. If you're a Slice of Life fan, this is definitely up your alley. At 12, we have Yamada-kun and the 7 Witches. Now, from chapter 1, I definitely think it is also a nice slice of life that does a lot of things right, but it also adds a couple things that a lot of slice of lives don't. A fantasy aspect of this whole witches kind of ordeal, which I have not seen yet, but I'm assuming it's going to be a fantasy aspect with all that. And also a little bit of a supernatural aspect with the power of switching bodies and all that. And also just a very big different take with that whole slice of life genre because of the whole switching bodies thing with Yamada. I think that's a very integral part to me liking this chapter 1 as much as I did. Of course, he didn't spend the whole chapter 1 in his body at all, but I do think that it is just very interesting to read about this character who can switch bodies. I just think it's a very interesting one, and definitely one I will continue in the future. But the only problem with the series is after volume 20, I think, or something like that, Kodansha made them 2-in-1s, and they made the spine so it looks like there's 2 singles, and you know how I am with those. I don't like them. And the final manga before you enter my top 10, my 11th spot goes to Witch Hat Atelier. Now I know what you guys might be saying. It's literally right here on my shelves. I have a couple volumes of it. The first 5. Yeah, first 5. I've read volume 1, not chapter 1, volume 1. This was also a while back. I've yet to read all of it, really. I've skimmed through volume 2 and a little bit, so I've kind of know what happens in volume 2 a little bit, but not really. But I want to reread this chapter 1 to see if it was a good chapter 1. Definitely was. As you can tell, it's almost near my top 10 for this whole video. The art really carries it, and I do think it is an interesting concept. I love my fantasy manga, and this was definitely one that's I'm gonna have to read in the future again. I definitely liked volume 1 when I read it, but I don't know why I didn't read more. Because if I read more, it would just not be in this video. I think there's 10 volumes out or something like that in English now. Definitely have to catch up, and I'm definitely have to read more of this series because I liked it a lot. This is why I could not buy volume 1s of any of the series, every series on this list. Someone recommended me Initial D. It's number 10 on this list. I know it's high on this list, but now I want to read an 800 chapter series. I don't know why you guys do this to me. That's going to take me a while. Don't you get this? Good series, but I was going to read it at one point, so thank you, I guess, for making me read it earlier, but now I'm going to have to read it soon, because I definitely very much enjoyed Initial D. I think the character design, yes, it's very old, but it is definitely one of the way better old character designs that I've ever seen. Definitely enjoyed that character design a lot, and I also enjoyed the story a lot, and how they drew cars was amazing. So, cannot wait to read more, and whoever recommended me this, why'd you have to put me through this? Now, at my number 9 spot is the series that I was talking about earlier with Endergeister. The Endergeister remind me a lot of, and that's going to be Jigan. Now, the reason I say it's a lot like Jigan is the craziness. I will say the art style is also kind of similar when they use double page spreads, but I think Jigan is just a way more interesting kind of concept from chapter 1, and also definitely, I'll be honest, a better drawn version of itself too. I think that the double page spread at the end of chapter 1 of Jigan was just amazing. It was crazy. Same with Endergeister had one of those that was just crazy, but that one in Jigan was I loved it. And in the slice of life moments we saw early in the chapter, it was a very charismatic kind of art style that I very much enjoyed seeing the main character have. I felt like it was definitely one that fit him a lot. And yeah, it was just very weird, but also very interesting chapter 1, because it also falls under that category of, at some points, I just did not know what was going on. So, yes, but I very much enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend this one to you guys. And number 8 is a very weird one. A very, very weird one. That's Happy Sugar Life. I didn't expect to like this one nearly as much as I did, because I'll be honest, the main character just reminds me of a very much better written, Gasai from Future Diary, Pink Hair and all. The volumes look amazing, I know that. I've seen them on shelves and Barnes & Nobles and everything, and I'm probably going to start picking it up, because it was definitely a very interesting and weird, creepy chapter 1. It's one of those that's, I think, kind of like a mystery crime thriller that is definitely one I'm going to have to continue, because there's not many of those out there, and I'm going to say this right now, it is definitely one of the weirder ones that I think I'll probably enjoy a lot. So, that's Happy Sugar Life. I know it's weird because of the relationship within it. I don't really see it as a loving relationship at this point. I see it as more of a caring, like, mother-daughter relationship, I guess. But, yeah, I can see how it would get very weird very quick if stuff like that started to happen, but so far I haven't seen it, so I can't rate it like that. So yeah, that's Happy Sugar Life. Now, for my number 7 is a series that just started getting published by, I believe it's Yen Press, and it's definitely one that I did not expect to like this much, and that's Wandance, or Wandance. I don't know how to say it perfectly, but definitely one I'm going to have to keep my eye out for, because to be honest, I loved this chapter 1. Did a lot of things right for a slice of life kind of sports, because it's definitely not like one of the most generic sports is dancing. It's definitely very much of a niche one you don't see many guys doing, and I definitely like seeing the main character starting in this kind of dance journey, I guess. And I also think that this art style matches this series perfectly, because when we do see those dancing scenes, it is so dynamic. It feels like it's moving, but it's not. I think the art is probably the most perfect artist for this series, and I think that's why I like it so much, is it just fits and it works, and I really like the series so far, so definitely gonna have to pick up some of these volumes, and definitely a great recommendation. At 6, we have a series that I didn't actually expect to like it this much, but it's gonna be Akane Banshi. Now this is a series I hope gets printed in English. I very much hope so, because I think it's doing pretty decently in Japan. So I feel like they probably will, just so they give us more variety from the Shonen Jump volumes that we do get, because I know it is a Shonen Jump series, and it's definitely one I want to kind of catch up on, because it was definitely one I liked a lot. Now I will say, the main kind of force that pushed it down to number 6, instead of being higher, was the main character, but in this chapter, it was barely of the MC and more about her dad, which I thought was a very, very, very interesting chapter 1. I loved that concept. I loved seeing kind of this build-up in chapter 1. And yes, the whole chapter 1 was build-up, but it was a very, very good one that I very much enjoyed, and actually got emotion out of me. I didn't like cry or anything, but I felt emotion towards these characters, and I wanted them to succeed. So that shows something if this manga is being able to get emotion out of me out of one chapter. So definitely recommend this one. And number 5, we have a series I kind of expected to like, but not this much. I felt like it would be in my top 15, but I didn't know if it was going to be in my top 10, and it is actually in my top 5, which is going to be The Apothecary Diaries. Now, I hear a lot of good things about this one, and it is a light novel original, I know, but I actually hear that this is one of the better manga adaptations of a light novel, and from what I've seen in chapter 1, I'd have to agree. I feel like this was a very good chapter 1. Hooks the reader, is a very much definitely slice of life chapter 1. I don't know how it goes in the future, but it hooks the reader, does all the slice of life things right, and the art, man. It was a very, very pretty first chapter. Interesting concept about these kind of girls getting kidnapped and being in this, like, brothel kind of place, and the uglier you look, the worse rank you basically were, yada, yada, yada. Like, it was kind of an interesting concept, I know that's very wrong what I said, I know. Kind of broken up. I know, that's what I've gotten from this chapter 1 so far. I'm gonna say, cannot wait to read more, and hope I enjoy it as much as I did chapter 1. Now, if you remember earlier in this video, I said Dugain had 2 manga in my top 10, and here's the first one. I know the other one is not actually my next one, it's the one after that, but The first one that's going to show up at number 4 is going to be Me and My Devil Blues. Now, this is definitely a very, very interesting one, and one I would not expect to be made by this mangaka, because it is made by the creator of Prison School. It's made and drawn by the creator of Prison School. And now, I think this is a true story or a folktale story about a black man who was in the prejudiced state of America. And he's trying to become a jazz artist, and he's having a kid being born very soon, and he's kind of just trying to live life and become a jazz artist, and seeing him sell his soul to become a very good jazz musician. That's what I got from chapter 1, a very, very interesting chapter 1, and I'm definitely going to have to read more, because that was a definite, very good one. I think there's only 3 volumes as well, or 6. I don't know if it's 3 or 6, but there is only that many volumes, and it's not that long, so I might have to read it very soon. Number 3, in my top 3 now, this manga I kind of expected to be up here because I'm a huge Kenta Shinohara fan. That's going to be Sketch Dance. I'm going to have to definitely read this in the future because I love Kenta Shinohara. Only problem with his works is they're quite wordy, so if you're not into wordy manga, you might not like his works, but this one is definitely very funny, very Kenta Shinohara-esque, and I definitely want to read more of this. I wish it had English physicals, as you can tell, because I made a whole video about manga I want in English, and this was on it. Literally, I think it was in my 3rd spot in that video, too. This was an amazing read. Did everything a slice of life mystery had to do. It wasn't even really a mystery. Basically, it's about this group called the Sketdan, and they're trying to solve mysteries for their school, and they get jobs in their school to solve problems. It's just very interesting and funny. It's just a comedy. It's very good. Definitely recommend it. Now, here is the other Dugain manga recommendation. He is just on fire. He had 1 very low and 2 very high, so I'm going to say that's a dub for Dugain, but it's going to be Hideout. This was such a interesting chapter 1. Definitely a horror manga. If you're not into horror manga, don't read it. It has some very creepy panels, but it was a very good one. I really like this. I do like my horror manga. I actually don't like horror movies or anything like that, but I do really like horror manga for some reason, other than Junji Ito, or should I say Junji Midto, because he just never makes any good works. But yeah, I'm gonna say this very good horror manga. I highly suggest this, and it's only one volume, so it's not that long. Of course, I've only read the first chapter of 9 chapters in that volume, but off chapter 1, man, that was just amazing. That was just great. The craziest part about this whole video is when I was reading all these chapters, I put them all in an Annulus Pyoko Manga Rec video, and I went in alphabetical order reading them. And if you can't tell, the first series I read is my number 1. It set the bar very, very, very high. I will be very honest about that. And as you can tell, there's a lot of A's. I did put the Apothecary Diaries at the T spot because that's where it landed, so it's not in the A spot, but I can't change that. Not on me, it's on any list, so I can't change that. But the first manga is going to be, again, I kind of forgot I didn't say it, again, a great manga, very much highly suggested. Yes, it is a time manipulation manga, and oh my god, was it good. It did everything a time manipulation, slice of life sports could do, and I didn't even know I could say all 3 of those things, and all 3 of those genres were together, but they are, and it was very good. Like, very good. They built up a lot of stuff very well, and they built up this main character very well, and I very much enjoyed it. It was definitely one that I feel like I'm definitely going to have to pick up. I think it's finished at 13 volumes. I feel like that's like a perfect length for this series. Not too long, but nothing too short. Another like 10 to 15 volume series, which I think will be amazing on these shelves. So that's it for my manga recommendation video. Of course, like I said earlier, if you ever want to be in this part 2, if this video does well and it has a part 2, leave a comment down below of a manga you want to recommend if I didn't already say it in this video, or if I have not read it, it will be in that video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you do, please hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!